Hello, hello, this is Debbie from Project 39, and this is Old Plus New May 2022. This is a collab I am doing with several talented people hosted by Toby of the Bitty Penny YouTube site. I will put links in the description box, or you could hashtag OldPlusNew 2022 and spell out plus, and you'll find all these talented people doing all these wonderful things. The theme for this month is Floral Fantasy. And I went through my stash because part of my old part of this collab is finding things I've had in my stash and using them in different ways. So I have stamps that are flowers, and that's what I was going to do. But then I found this embossing folder that I've had that is sort of a paisley floral that I've been wanting to use in some way, shape, or form for a while. And plus, I wanted to try a new technique, which is using embossing powder and then adding some inks on top of the embossing powder. So as you've seen, I have embossed several, I just cut some 8.5 by 11 sheets in half and embossed with the embossing folder. And I tried different ways of doing this, whether I added embossing fluid or used an embossing stamp pad, or if I did it directly onto the paper, or if I put it on the embossing folder first. And, you know, all these ways worked in different forms. Nothing was perfect because there was a lot of negative space in this, but, you know, I just went with it. I just was having fun and had some visions in my mind. Of course, nothing comes out exactly what I think in my mind, but I'm having fun. I am using white embossing powder, and then afterwards I put it in a box and use some Distress Oxide Spray in a bright yellow. And so I do that to all of my sheets. Some I spray a little heavier than others, but honestly it all comes out the same, because once you add a little water to this, it oxidizes, I guess, and spreads differently. So I put some cardboard down just so my surface doesn't get all crazy. I eventually will take some water in a spray bottle, and I am just rubbing the ink around and trying to get it off of the white embossing powder, and it works pretty well. And I don't, you'll see there's some pictures of it later, but I really like how it comes out. I'm limited on the colors I have in my stash, and here's the spiel. I live, travel, and craft in my RV, so space is at a premium. I would love to have every single color of the Distress Oxide sprays and embossing powders and embossing pads, but I just don't have room for it. And I just picked up this yellow for some reason. Haven't really used it that much, so I thought, you know what, today's the day. It's a real pretty yellow, and honestly I was inspired by the Simple Stories collection Lemon Twist. It's got yellow and lime green and turquoise, and I just love that combination of colors. I used up all of my Lemon Twist paper, so I don't even have any to look at, but I'm just going from memory and just using that color combination. I also picked up some, it's a new product. It's, I have to get it out, so if I'm going to make noise, sorry. It's the Ranger, here it is, I can read it to you. Ranger Distress Embossing Glaze in Salvaged Patina. So this glaze is a little bit transparent, but it still gives a good color. So you'll see I'll use that singularly down the road. I'm using my Distress Oxide now in Cracked Pistachio, and then I have a Distress ink in turquoise that I grab also. I'm inking around the edges of these little sheets that I cut to fit in the little mini album that I made. I also was inspired by, it's spring. I'm here in Colorado, and I mean the rest of the country might have had spring for a while, but we've still have snow on the mountains. We're leaving here in a little bit, going to different parts of the country, but hiking as much as we can and enjoying it. Oh, see, here I get out the turquoise because, again, I like this combination of colors. And in my travels, I've taken some pictures of spring things like ferns coming out and birds' eggs and flowers. And I just wanted to add some to a little book. I'm very fortunate that I get to see spring in different parts of the country, and I love it. Now I'm taking one of the pages and just inking in random places on a couple of these sheets that I did not cut down. These are going to be for the front cover and back cover. So I play around with it until I don't want to overtake the yellow because I want it all to be homogeneous. So I just added in some areas. Just some of that cracked pistachio and some in the turquoise. And I know I shouldn't mix the Distress ink with Distress Oxide on my dabber, but oh well. You know, we're just playing around. So once I've got this, I'm going to spritz it a little and try to blend it and see what happens. Not much, but what it basically does is brings us down to where the white embossing is, because now it's shiny, and so that comes out a little bit. And I love the pattern in it, so I'm happy with it the way it is. Let's grab another one. No, there we go. And just play around with some of the different colors again, just lightly. I just want to touch it up a little bit. So I'll finish playing around with this and then go to something different. I decided to add some another dye. I have some leaves, so I'm playing with different colors and just blending. I'm not that good at blending, but still it comes out okay by the time I'm done. So I start with the turquoise, and then I change my little inking pad, then I add that cracked pistachio, and I just mix the colors, just add a lot of colors to this page, and then I'm going to die cut some leaves with this paper. Alright, so I'm adding different colors, more of this cracked pistachio. No, this one is Mowed Lawn. Perfect spring name, isn't it? Mowed Lawn. And then I have some squeezed lemonade. There's that purpley color is actually a blue. I spritz it a little and dry it. I feel like this adds some texture. I think I'm going to a lot of trouble for what I'm going to do with this piece of paper, but I'm having fun. You know, sometimes you just gotta let yourself go. So I'm intensifying the colors here because when I spritz it, I love the texture that comes out, but I like it to dry fast, so I use my embossing gun to make it dry. And then here, finally, I take those leaves. This is a Memento die. Don't know where I got it from. I've had it in my stash for a little bit, and I really haven't used it. So again, I'm trying to get things out of my stash that I've had in there and just want to use. Now these would be great for fall, so I'm sure you'll see this again. Alright, I'm making the mini album now. I sort of slowed it down so I can go through the process, but I do have other videos on my channel to show you how to do it. I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you how quick and easy it can be. Now, let me get out my ruler because I forget the size of the chipboard. 7 by 5-ish. And then the spine piece is 1 3/4. So I just have cut out a white cardstock a little bit bigger, about 1 inch bigger. It's not quite. And now I'm trimming off the corners. I stay away from the edge. I'm about 1/4 inch, a little more than I normally would be. I fold it on my surface. I liked mini albums are my thing. Obviously, Project 39 mini albums. I think they're a fun, easy project to do. Of course, I say easy. I've probably made about 400 in the past 5, 6 years. I use glitter glue, which is Art Institute Dries Clear Designer Glitter Glue. It has no glitter. It has nothing to do with glitter, except I think it was formulated so you could use glitter with it. But we found that it is a great glue, very it's easily available, except it doesn't ship during the winter because if it gets below 40 degrees, it clumps up. So stock up in the summer and the spring. I'm taking my bone folder and just pushing in those corners so when I fold that over, it'll fold over easy. Basically, you're just covering the chipboard. And it doesn't really matter how you do it. I mean, just grab a piece of chipboard and a piece of cardstock, and it could be pattern paper or it could be regular paper. I add glue to the edges because I think it helps avoid cracking and helps the paper bend easy. It moistens the fibers of the paper and lets it fold and adhere. This method of covering I use a couple of different methods. Sometimes I put all three pieces, the spine and the two covers, down on a piece of paper. I may have to join it with a piece of score tape or double-sided adhesive. Sometimes I just I just cover the two covers separately and the spine separately and then add them together. That's a method I learned out of a different design team. Tamara Kilgore Merrill was the one that taught me that, watching different videos. So again, I'm just using some of the glue to adhere it down. You could use glue. You could even use ATG in this place, because once you've covered it and gotten all four sides of the paper around that chipboard, it's not going to go anywhere. You definitely want to put some kind of adhesive down on that chipboard, or else it's going to sort of bubble up and you'd notice it. I pulled out a mini album I made that actually got me started on this. It was a trip we made to the mountains, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. And the cover I decorated, but I realized that the paper that makes the cover isn't attached to the chipboard. So I'm the only one that notices. It's a book I'll keep for myself, but it was a learning experience like this is. So anyhow, I am covering this one the same way I did last. I'm going to stop this and go forward. Okay, like I said, I've sped this up. Let's just finish this, and I'll show you how I do the spine. And you'll notice the paper on the spine is way too big for it. At least that's what I've noticed. The rule of thumb is when you're covering the chipboard, use a piece that's 2 inches bigger, width times length. And when you're covering the spine, use a piece that's 2 inches bigger, height-wise, and 3 inches bigger width-wise. This is probably 4 inches bigger height-wise, and maybe it's 3 inches bigger, like 1.5 inches on each side width-wise, but otherwise you just have way too much paper to deal with. So here I'm just cutting off. I fold it and then really basically cutting off on those score lines. I'm mitering this a little bit. I'll have to trim some. I'm being real sloppy about this one. I'm just trying to get it done in a hurry. Making the book takes maybe 15 minutes. This only had 4 pages in it. But you know what? I've gotten it down to a science, so I can do it quickly. Like I said, there are other tutorials in my channel. There are lots of tutorials in my channel on making mini albums. There are some that are labeled as beginner and easy, so if you haven't done this before, look for those. And great way to use up paper. So I'm just trimming this down so it's not so bulky. And then I will turn my spine piece upside down and burnish it so the paper on the spine sort of sticks up, just the height of the chipboard. And then those wings, I call, sort of are down on the table. And then I'm going to take the two covers that are covered. I'll add glue to this little wing on that spine piece and then just match it up. And there we go. Let's do this side. When you put glue down for this, stay away from the very edge of the spine. Maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch near it. Oops, slid a little bit. But doesn't this look easy? I mean, really, and it's just paper. If you don't have chipboard, you could use cereal boxes. Depends on how flimsy they are. You might want to double them up. I would not use corrugated. Some people have used corrugated cardboard. I would not. Now I'm taking a piece of scrap cardstock. I'm going to get out my paper trimmer. That's what's taking so long. And I cut this the height of the spine, the height of the book. And then I'm going to glue this down. It helps keep everything together. It helps make the spine and the covers less flimsy. I don't think I tried to see how flimsy they are, but I know they are. So I'm being fairly generous with the glue, but not crazy. All right, and then I'll grab my bone folder. I'm pushing down pretty hard because I want the height of the chipboard pieces to be all in line. The tendency is the covers will be a little higher than the spine, so that's why I'm pushing down with the edge of the bone folder. All right, here I'm making the hinge. So what a hinge is a set of paper that's folded together that you'll put the page in, and the page you make similar to a tube. So I'm counting, making sure I have 4 hinges. So you have hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset. I'm folding down on the hinges. The hinges are 2 1/2-inch pieces. So I'll fold down to make sort of a mountain out of the center of those 2 pieces. And you can see the 4 mountains there. Now I sort of pull them together, go back and forth. I just have, I think, 1/4 of an inch between these. I don't remember what my measurements were. Look at the book. No, it's not 1/4. It's a 3/8 of an inch. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8. Now I'm putting glue into all of those. I turned my paper over. So I'm putting glue into the mountains, but again, it's turned upside down. I'm putting it on one side. And I'm going to grab a surface to work on, otherwise my work surface gets all filled with glue and I have to clean it fairly often. And then I pinch those pieces together and that'll make the hinge. I think one came apart. There we go. So I pinch them together, even down at the base. I have short fingernails, so I'm sort of pinching down at the base, making sure that it's real close together. Using my bone folder to squeeze, oops, some glue came out. But using my bone folder to squeeze, and then I move the hinges one direction and then the other. I'm doing 2 things, making sure that glue is distributed throughout the hinge, and also I am teaching the paper to move back and forth, because that's the whole point of a hinge, is so your pages can move back and forth. All right, now I'm going to put this in my book. It's unusual that I make the hinge a different color than the book, but you know, again, old plus new, it's using your stash. I have a lot of this blue paper, and plus it goes with the rainbow of colors that I'm using. I'm using the bone folder to burnish down in those channels of where the spine attaches to the hinge. All right, to attach, the spine attaches to the covers, I meant. To attach the hinge, I put glue really all over. I mean, I want to make sure that the hinge stays together. I'm really generous around the hinge area. And then I put some on the wings. I leave some room for me to be able to hold it, and I don't get glue all over my fingers. It's important to make sure that it's even left to right, so you sort of look where the the spine is attached to the covers. I sort of have it bottom justified, if I remember typing terminology. Put the hinge down towards the bottom. It is a habit I have gotten into because I have a lot of top open pockets. And this, I was going to make pockets, but I decided not to at the end. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could center it if you do the same sort of thing. The hinge system is 4 inches tall. The pages are 4 1/4. When I made the book, I wasn't sure how big my pages would be, so I made it smaller than I was going to. And here I'm burnishing all the glue down. You have to sort of work fast here because you don't want the glue to dry. But I'm in an environment where it's not going to dry too quick. It's sort of cool out. And then just burnish. And then next I'm going to make the pages. My pages are 6 inches. I score at 4 1/4 and then 8 1/2. So my pages is 9 by 6, and I cut 4 of these. So 4 1/4, 8 1/2, and I'll speed this up. Okay, I'm just going to finish burnishing or scoring these pieces. Then I will burnish. I'll miter on that 1/2 inch tab, and then I add glue to the tab and fold it over on those score lines. So I think I made 5 pages. I only needed 4. And then it's a tube, so I put the tube over the hinge. And that is how you make a page with this system of making a hinge. Okay, as part of my playing around, I decided let's add some color directly to the embossing folder. So I have a little dauber and I'm sprayed some of my yellow, and I'm just covering this embossing folder. And see below it, I've got this beautiful turquoise paper that's cut. So I'm going to put that into the embossing folder, and I think I'm going to have a beautiful pattern. So I put this in, run it through my machine. I think I have to get the layers right. I have some extra sheets of cardstock below it, some scrap. Here's a piece of thin chipboard. And wait till you see what happens. This is fabulous. This is anticlimactic. That yellow barely came onto there. I guess I should have spritzed it again so it was wet. But you know what? I just decided it's not what I was going for. I think I run it through another time, but eventually what I do is just turn it over and just use that plain turquoise without the yellow. So that's what happens when you experiment. I bet if I had spritzed it with water, I would have gotten more of a pattern. But live and learn. And luckily that cleans off of the embossing folder real easy. So we move on. So yeah, that experiment didn't work out. So I'm just going to cut this down and use the turquoise side because it's pretty. The pattern's nice. So I add glue to the side that's got some yellow to it and attach that. So that's going to be the inside covers. Yep. cover it all up. And there we go. And then I love that color. So I'm going to add some turquoise paper, not embossed, to the outside covers. That's going to be sort of the base color, and then I'm going to layer on top of that. And add some to the outside spine as well. I'm just looking at the book realizing I didn't do anything to the outside spine. That actually is an opportunity to do something. I could add some of those leaves that I die cut. I could put a dangle on it. Oh, so I just picked up this new word dies from scrapbook.com. The link is listed below. I cut out, so this one says memories and family and beautiful. And I said, you know what? I will never use that beautiful, but I'll use memories and family because it seems like that would be a great title to a mini album. And what's the first thing I use? Beautiful. I just thought, just the script writing is fabulous. So I cut it out of, this is some heavyweight cardstock. I cut it out 3 times, and I'm going to glue all the layers together, not so you can see it. Let me see if I can get a better view. I'll show you in a second exactly what I'm doing. You know, sometimes you just get into it. But I've added all layers together, and the B is separate from the beautiful. And I glued 3 layers together, and then I added some embossing ink. Dip it in this, whatever I told you it was, the Embossing Glaze in patina. So yeah, so a couple of times I dip it in, and I'm heat embossing it. I think I show you in just a second. But I heat emboss it, and then while it's still hot, I dip it in that pile of embossing glaze that's over there to the left. Come on, let's see it. All right, I'm embossing it again. So again, that glaze is transparent, translucent. It's not completely transparent, but I think I've put on 5 or 6 layers and then realized it's not going to get any deeper in color. I could have used my ink, but I sort of like the fact that it's got different tones to it. So I just go with it. All right, come on, let's see it. I'm getting there. You can see a little bit of it. Okay, there we are. So sorry about that. And then I move it again, but okay. I mean, it really is beautiful. So yeah, here I decided to try to add some of that turquoise to it, thinking, all right, let's just run it along the bottom. But it's so glossy, so shiny that this is not sticking. Probably if I had Distress Oxide, that would work. But you know what? In the end, I decided just go with it. It really is pretty. You can't see the dimension. I just wipe off that embossing. Not that embossing, that Distress ink. I just don't want it to get all over the place if it's not going to give me the bang for the buck I was looking for. But I like it. So now I am going to start working on the cover. I have some of those papers that I added some of the ink to, and I cut it down about 1/2 inch smaller than the outside of the book. I end up layering white below it, but for the back cover, I leave it pretty simple. I usually don't do much on the back cover. It's got some texture, some color to it. I mean, it's the back cover. I'll probably put a sticker that has my Etsy shop and my website on. But I don't do much to the back. So let's cut the front cover. So here I'm taking some permanent double-sided adhesive. I had some scraps in my stash. I'm cutting it down because it's so, it's got so much dimension. I just want to make sure that it sticks to the cover nice and flat. I added to this white piece of cardstock, and the white will adhere real well, so I can just use glue for that. And now I'm adding those just the yellow and white emboss with the edges inked to my pages. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is a great backdrop for any spring photos. I cut out or I print out some photos, and some are large, some are small, like some are 4x6 that I cut down, and then some are 3x4. You know, I print 2 out to a page, and I like that smaller size because more of the paper will show. I add some photos, and I'll do a walkthrough when I'm all done of some of the photos in the book, just so you can see what it looks like all together. But smaller photos are better in this case, so you can see the beautiful paper. And I wish I had a couple extra sheets. I have one. I might just do, nah, I put it through the embossing folder twice and it didn't make a good impression. But I could make a card out of it, and maybe that's what I do. But anyhow, don't you love how that goes in the book? I like the inked around edges with the blue and that light turquoise paper. I don't like the white showing at the top of the spine, but you know, it is what it is. So some of the paper cut out in that top right corner, see in the bottom, that's just a scrap that I just was playing around with. So I decided to fussy cut some of the elements that I had used that embossing glaze on. Again, it was translucent, so you see some of the colors below, but not a lot. So I'm fussy cutting some of the scraps. So I've got the large one on the right side, a smaller one on the left, and then just a little flower. And then I figure out where beautiful is going to go. There, it looks okay. I add some tape to those elements, some of the double-sided adhesive, because I want to make sure that they stay on permanently. Again, they've got so much dimension, so I would just want to make sure there's a good stick to it. And when I am not sure of how things are going to adhere, I use both double-sided adhesive and wet glue. Just double up on my adhesive. So I don't put the glue on top of the double-sided adhesive. I put it in the areas that does not have the double-sided adhesive. And I'm laying this pattern right over where the pattern is on the sheet. See, to the left side, you see those, I don't know what you'd call it. Looks like clouds. And I put that right over the top. And then that little flower. I just wanted something muted. I think I might go for even more dimension. I might do some Nuvo drops, or I just got some scrapbook.com pops of color in yellow and lime green, which would be perfect for this. So I'm adding glue to the back of the lettering and putting it down, making sure it's straight. I should have used a ruler or something, but that's not me. And burnish the back real well just to make sure everything's, again, got a good stick. Add it to the cover. I looked at this glitter paper and I was going to use that, but I decided at the last minute not to. See that white piece? It's because I cut it too short on one side. So there we go. It's beautiful. I mean, I like it. I like it. All right, I take this tab punch that I have. I think it's by EK Success. And I cut out 4 little tabs. I'm taking a ruler and using my little Cricut embossing thing. I don't think you can get it anymore, but it makes a good straight line for me. I just want to make sure these are folded right in half, so that's why I use the ruler and the embossing stylus. That's the word. I had cut out these yellow papers. There's 4 of them. I'm adding the little tabs. So I try to get 1 for the very top, 1 for the very bottom, and then I'll get 2 in between. So this is a hidden pocket page. You'll see later the little tabs will stick out. I left it white. This was just a piece that I did not add yellow to. I didn't want everything to be too matchy-matchy. I wanted the tabs to stick out literally and figuratively. So I add glue to the whole tab, put it on the edge of my little papers, and then add them into the book. So there's just 4 pages, and they're pocket pages. So you can put a photo on the front and the back of each page, so that's 8. And then the front and back of the hidden photo mats, so that's 8 more. So that's 16. Plus you could put photos in the front and back cover. That's 17, 18. So you could get 18 photos in this little quickie book. So I figure I'll add photos as I go. All right, so I've got these leaves and I really wanted to use them. But then I decided once I put photos on those papers, those leaves are, it's just going to be too much. Oh, here I've got my little pops of color. And there's just some areas that have little dots. I'll show you a close-up at the very end so you can see these pops of color. So that I'm adding yellow here. Come on. And then I'll add yellow to that sort of paisley little part on the right hand side top. And then I have to get out my green, and I eventually add green to the inside of the flower and a couple of other spots that have got some dots to it. Alright, I'm going to take you on a walkthrough through the book, but first let me show you what I use, so if you wanted to do something of this sort, you could. First of all, the embossing folder I used was from Provo Craft for Cuttlebug. I guess it's called Paisley. But really, any embossing folder will do this. I used these colors of Distress Oxide: Squeeze Lemonade, Cracked Pistachio, Mowed Lawn, and Chipped Sapphire. Again, just grab colors that you like. Oh, I used this Distress ink in Peacock Feathers to go along with it. This is the Distress Oxide Spray I have. It's called Mustard Seed. It's a nice, vibrant yellow. It's a good color. And here is that Embossing Glaze, Distress Embossing Glaze Salvaged Patina by Tim Holtz. Fun. Again, if I had more room, I'd get this in a whole, these two things in a whole rainbow of colors. But alas, I do not. But that's okay. Pops of color in Key Lime and Sunshine. So it says gloss. I wonder if they make them not in gloss. That's interesting. I think I'll add more pops of color. There's a couple of dots here. All right, let me show you a little closer. I'm going to hit autofocus. Pretty, isn't it? And then here's the lettering. So see how it's translucent? You see, why do you keep going in and out? You see some areas where it's not as vibrant as others, but I still think it's pretty. And see how dimensional it is? All right, come on, focus. Now let me do a walkthrough. Okay, so there's the cover, there's the spine. I still should do something with that. There's the back. And so here's what I did with the leaves. I put them on the inside. Grab a piece of paper. I left them open so you still could put photos in there if you wanted to. I added some photos to the pages. Some of the colors have been retouched a little bit. That's why that doesn't really look like an egg. That was last year's hike. But springtime, doesn't that remind you of spring? So here's that hidden page. So that'll give me more room for photos. Not as big as the front, but still room for photos. And I just added 4 photos here just to give you an idea. So you still have room on this side. These photos I used in editing tool I have on my phone. Let me see if I can tell you what it's called. Oh, Artisto. Fun. And it added turquoise to my pictures of flowers. It just sort of stylizes the photos. This one is not stylized, and I was trying to zoom in on some of those forget-me-nots, but those were in a field in Vermont. Oh, just so pretty. Just like a whole field of blue. And then those were using the Artisto stylized. They're not spring flowers. They were more yellow, but then I changed it with my stylizing, but it added some turquoise. But so this is cut down because the pages are 4 1/4 by 6. So the photo is about a little more than 3 1/2 by 5 1/2. So you can see some of the color on the outside, but see here with a smaller photo, sorry about the glare, now you can see some of that beautiful paisley floral fantasy. So yeah, fun, different, out of my normal comfort zone, but I enjoyed this, and I can't wait to play around with something for next month. What I'm doing with this OldPlusNew collab is using my old stash in a different way. So I allow myself to have fun and experiment and do all sorts of cool things. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did. I can't wait to do something for next month, so don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps me out more than I can tell you. Subscribe, do the things, and don't forget to check out, put in hashtag OldPlusNew May 2022 or OldPlusNew 2022 and see what the rest of these people in the collab do, and join along if you do something using something old from your stash in a new method, or new to your stash in an old method. Really anything. Just have fun. It's just all about sharing creative joy and inspiring others. So please let me know if I've inspired you in any way, and I'd love to know what you make. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.